Today, we're going to talk about 3 cases of people living in a home they didn't own. But before we get started, welcome to True Crime with Maneater. If you're interested in all things true crime, including missing person cases, cold cases, and just the strange happenings of the world, you've come to the right place. Be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. Let's get started. In 1995, Amber Dawn was a 20-year-old who moved to a farming town in the state of Washington to be closer to her brother. She rented an apartment that was on the top floor, but the first night there, she heard some noises above her. Thinking it was just a squirrel or raccoon, she went to bed. And over the next few months, she would hear things happening above her, and things would go missing, things like a 6-pack of soda she would buy, but she didn't think too much of it. She thought, maybe my brother stopped by. She also noticed that food was missing, things like ramen noodles and soup. Doors had been left open, doors that she thought she had closed before she left for work. Amber didn't panic, though. She mostly found it amusing. She thought her brother must have been going over there. After all, he did have a key. And then she got a puppy. So while she was potty training the puppy, she used to lock it in the bathroom just in case it had accidents while she was away. One day she came home and the apartment was flooded. Of course she panicked because her puppy was locked in the bathroom. She opens the door and there's her puppy sitting in the sink. This obviously raised some questions in her mind. The puppy was so small. How had it jumped up and gotten into the sink? She thought somebody must have been there to save her. And so the footsteps continued until one day she asked her landlord if there was any other way to get in the attic except for, obviously, the latch that was in her ceiling. The landlady said no, but obviously a squirrel or raccoon may have gotten in there. And then one day, Amber wasn't feeling well, so she called in sick. She basically just laid on the couch all day watching TV, kind of riding out the illness. And then around 11 p.m., she went to the bathroom and drew a bath. As she was laying in the bath, she looked over and she noticed the hatch to the attic was open. This moment, Amber was in complete shock, and all of the pieces fell into place. She got out of the bathtub, walked slowly to her bedroom, completely naked, grabbed a bathrobe, and then had to walk past the mirrored closet that she assumed the man was hiding in. Grabbed her phone, grabbed her puppy, and went to the kitchen. She opened the junk drawer, took out a hammer, and then called her sister-in-law. She whispered into her phone, "I think someone is in my house." Her sister-in-law told her to get out of the house, and she was there within minutes to get her. The women went back to her sister-in-law's house and called the police. Amber wanted to stay as calm as possible because she figured he was living there for 6 months. And if he wanted her dead, she probably would have already been dead. Police arrived, they looked around, but couldn't find anybody. What they did find, of course, was a nest full of stuff in the attic. There was a sleeping bag, some food, and a book. And the next day, Amber handed her landlord the police report and told her she was moving out. She says the experience still haunts her, and she's glad she lives in a home now with her husband that doesn't have an attic. And I don't blame her. This case is so creepy for so many reasons. At the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, a student, Maddie, who was a junior, found a man living in her closet. She noticed previously that items had been missing: clothing, food, and then there was those suspicious handprints in the bathroom that didn't belong to her or her roommate. She kept hearing rattling in her closet. She was terrified that a raccoon might be in there. What was lurking in there was even worse. She creeps slowly into her room and hesitantly says, "Who's there?" To her surprise, somebody actually answers. The voice in the closet said, "Oh, I'm Drew." So casually. Maddie goes to her closet, pulls open the door, and looks at the man sitting in her closet. And he's literally wearing all of her clothing and had a book bag full of her clothes. Maddie calmly called her boyfriend and told him what was happening while talking to the man in her closet. The man, 30-year-old Andrew Sufford, began trying on her hats. He even went to the bathroom to see how they looked. He turned to Maddie and said, "You're like really pretty. Can I give you a hug?" Of course, this was super jarring to Maddie, who doesn't know this person, and he had just been living in her closet for who knows how long. Of course, he didn't touch her. Obviously, the police were called, and he was arrested. But the roommates were left with questions, like how did he get into the house? They kept all their doors and windows locked and were really strict about safety measures. After all, they were 2 women living alone. But this wasn't the first time 2 strangers had been in their house. Maddie arrived home one evening to find 2 strange men in her living room. Of course, she alerted the leasing office immediately, and the locks were changed. This next case is my worst nightmare. Michelle Frendenberg is the director of a physical therapy department at a hospital, and she would use the valet service often. Unbeknownst to her, the valet attendant, Carlos Feria, had made copies of her keys. While she was away, he went into her home and hid a video camera on her desk, in her bedroom. He would then get under her bed and wait there for 2 days. And during those 2 days, Michelle went about her routine like normal, unsuspecting that not only was she being filmed, there was a man under her bed. One evening, Michelle and her boyfriend got in bed when they heard a noise. So Michelle's boyfriend gets out of bed, moves the covers, and peeks under. And a man is staring back at him. He grabs Carlo and drags him from underneath the bed. The 2 obviously are fighting and struggling, but he ends up subduing Carlo. The police were called and Carlo was arrested. Not only did they find the hidden camera, but what he had under the bed was even more terrifying. In the bag, he had notebooks, latex gloves, a video camera, 2 rolls of tape, a power cord, and several unused condoms. He obviously had come prepared and was very carefully planning this. Carlo was eventually sentenced to 3 years in prison for his stalking of Michelle. He would later tell the judge in the courtroom that he was madly in love with Michelle and he let that cloud his judgment, and that he never intended to hurt anyone. Of course, no one bought this because he came prepared to do something terrible, but was caught before he could do anything. Not only did he get 3 years in prison, but he got 3 years of probation, but he has to also undergo a sexual offender evaluation. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. See you later.